Hey, what is up everybody, it's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and I can't believe that Black Clover just revealed the Rinnegan. And what's more, this Rinnegan, or I guess I should call it Tengensu, is foreshadowing Asta's ultimate form and power-up. The one that will allow him to stand against God Mode Lucius in the final battle to come. This series is so exciting right now, so let's get into it. You guys know the drill. If you enjoy our Black Clover videos and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now. It only takes you a second, but it helps me out a lot. And if you are one of the over 50% of people who watch our videos regularly but haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Remember that subscribing on YouTube is completely free, but it helps me out a lot in a very direct way. Finally, this video will contain Black Clover manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. So in the last chapter, we learned that Lucius was about to attain the godlike abilities of creation by combining blood, flesh, bone, and soul magic. Once he attains this power, he will be able to alter people's minds and bodies at will, and he will even be able to create people out of nothing. His ultimate plan is to gain control of all the magic in the entire world and become a true god. In order to save Sister Lily and everyone else, Asta must defeat Lucius at all costs, and that is exactly what he vows to do. But one thing that struck me about the previous chapter is the question, what if the cost is too great? What if Asta has to make a deal with the devil, or I guess I should say another deal with the devil, in order to gain the power to defeat Lucius? For example, what if he finds himself having to make a deal with someone like Astaroth? Or what if he's forced to overuse his anti-magic to the point that it goes berserk, possibly creating an all-consuming void that even Asta can't control? What if Asta has to sacrifice his own soul to win against Lucius? The tropes of making a deal with the devil and sacrificing your own soul in return for some power or benefit is very common in works of fiction. And it is possible that Black Clover could be heading in a similar direction with Asta. Asta might have to trade his soul, or some other important part of himself, in order to gain enough power to save everyone by taking Lucius down. But actually, I think that this very chapter has already given us a huge hint for what Asta's ultimate power-up will be. A power that will turn Asta into a dark god. A god of destruction. And that is exactly what I want to talk about in this video, because this chapter could be a lot more important than most people realize. We pick up with Asta attempting to do what he promised Lily that he would do. First, he's going to defeat the five-headed dragon, and then he will take on Lucius himself. Asta is able to use his anti-magic Zetten to slash off the heads of the dragon with a single cut, which is of course extremely impressive, but there's a problem. Despite the fact that Asta is easily cutting the dragon, right after his attack, the head immediately just heals itself. Asta just can't cut the heads as fast as they can regenerate. And this turn of events could have serious consequences for Asta as the final battle against Julius approaches. Even though Asta's anti-magic is effectively ripping through the dragon and its magic powers, the creature has so much magical power that it regenerates quicker than Asta can destroy it. Now of course, this dragon will not be the final villain in the series, and Asta definitely will find a way to defeat it, probably using some serious teamwork. But this could be some major foreshadowing about Asta's greatest weakness against Lucius. Lucius's master plan involves gaining control of as much magic as possible. First, he will combine blood, flesh, bone, and soul magic within himself, and then he will attempt to control all the magic in the entire world. So, if anyone is going to have enough magic to overwhelm Asta's overpowered anti-magic, it's going to be Lucius. If this dragon can heal faster than Asta can attack it, then you better believe that a God Mode Lucius will be able to do the same, and that is where Asta will run into trouble. Up to this point, anti-magic has always found a way to overcome every type of magic that Asta has faced, even the absolutely strongest magic types wielded by the absolutely strongest opponents. Granted, Asta often has to rely on teammates and allies to help him out, but in the end, anti-magic usually gets the job done. However, this chapter is clearly reminding us that Asta's anti-magic does have a limit. It is not infinite or all-powerful. And this tells us that even with all his current power, and even with his newfound mastery of Zetten, Asta will not be able to defeat Lucius, at least not in his current state. Now, am I saying that Asta is going to lose and Lucius is going to win in the end? Of course not. This is a shonen, and Black Clover definitely follows shonen norms quite faithfully. What I'm saying is that in order to win, Asta will need a further power-up. He will need to get even stronger than he is now. And yes, I know that he literally just underwent a training arc, but current Asta is still not strong enough to defeat God Mode Lucius. In order to defeat a god, you have to become a god, and Asta is not there yet. So what could Asta's next power-up be, and why is it Rinnegan? I'll get back to that in a little bit, because the chapter then switches focus to the battle between Paladin Heath and Yosuga, the strongest of the Ryuzen 7. Heath is using an incredible amount of magic to create a literal forest of spiky icicles in an attempt to impale Yosuga. This kind of massive attack wouldn't be possible for Heath without his paladin powers. And Heath is determined to win because he is fully committed to Lucius's cause of creating a new, righteous world. I can't tell if Heath is brainwashed like Sister Lily, or if he's just naturally crazy. But knowing what we know about him before he became a paladin, I wouldn't at all be surprised if he didn't even require brainwashing because he's just a fanatic. Yosuga is able to avoid Heath's attacks pretty easily, and he doesn't even look like he's broken a sweat. In fact, Yosuga is smirking as he asks Heath if that's all he's got. As Yosuga proclaims that he will cut down the paladin for the sake of the shogun, we get a quick flashback that teaches us a lot about both Yosuga and Ryuya. It also reveals the truth about Ryuya's Tengensu and why he doesn't have any magic power. Growing up, Yosuga and Ryuya were the strongest fighters in Hino country, and they were each set to become the leaders of their respective islands, Koshu and Goshu. As teenagers, the two of them had a friendly rivalry, and they would often spar with each other in order to get even stronger. They were the only people who posed any sort of real challenge to each other, so it makes sense that they would train together, since no one else could really test their abilities or force them to improve. Then, when Yosuga was about 17 years old, a great plague spread through both Koshu and Goshu islands, and people were dying in droves. Those with weak magic power were especially vulnerable, whereas those who had a lot of magic power were far more resistant. The only way to save the people from this horrible plague was to obtain the legendary power known as Tengensu, and definitely not known as the Rinnegan. The Tengensu is an all-seeing eye that will allow Hino to defeat the plague by locating the elusive cure. But only 2 people in the entire country had enough magic power to obtain this all-seeing eye. These 2 people were, of course, the 2 strongest individuals in the country, Ryuya and Yosuga. But there's a catch to gaining this legendary ability. Whoever chooses to take the Tengensu will lose all of their magic power and will from then on be essentially magicless. They will have the power of the Tengensu, but no other magic beyond that. When he heard about this price, Yosuga didn't want anything to do with the Tengensu. Sure, it sounded like an extremely useful power, but all his life he wanted to be the strongest, and he loved his current position and status. He was not willing to give up his magic power just to protect the weak, when he himself wasn't even in any danger of dying. Unlike Yosuga, Ryuya didn't hesitate. He immediately volunteered to have all his magic power taken away in return for the Tengensu because he wanted to help the weak and end the plague as soon as possible. At first, Yosuga thought that Ryu was crazy for giving up his power, but he later realized that he himself was just being selfish. While he was focusing on his own power and on getting stronger, Ryu was focusing on helping others, and because of that, the people loved him and followed him willingly. Yosuga always thought that to become shogun you have to be the strongest fighter, But thanks to Ryu, he realized that the one who should be shogun is the one who cares about the people and who has the support of the people. And so when it came time to decide who the next shogun will be, Yosuga supported his friend Ryu, and then he chose to become the 7th Ryuzen. Back in the present time, Heath can't believe that he still hasn't been able to take Yosuga down despite the severity of his attacks. But that is only the beginning of Heath's problems. Yosuga then reveals the ultimate nature of his magic, iron magic or iron yojutsu. His entire body turns to iron and he himself turns into an iron soldier. He then easily smashes through Heath's ice and uses his Zetten to absolutely obliterate the paladin. Yosuga declares that he is the strongest there is, and honestly, we do have to acknowledge that his power is truly impressive. Asta defeating a paladin with anti-magic is one thing. We already know how powerful Asta is and how overpowered anti-magic is. But Yosuga's ability to crush a paladin so effortlessly is an incredible feat. And also his Iron Soldier form is extremely cool and clearly very strong. You better believe that Yosuga will play some role in the final showdown against Lucius. With the paladins wrecked, the only opponent left here in Hino country is the 5-headed dragon. Ryu tells all his Ryuzen that he has been watching their fights, their thoughts, and their efforts. And he says that there is no way that they're going to be defeated. It's time for all of them to take down the 5-headed dragon together. And with all the Ryuzen invigorated by Ryu's words, everyone prepares to fight alongside Asta, and that is how this hype chapter comes to an end. And while this might seem like a small chapter that just gives us a better idea of who Yasuga and Ryu really are, I think that this chapter is foreshadowing some really important things that we need to pay attention to. First up, as I mentioned earlier, if this dragon is producing too much magic for Asta to be able to take down with anti-magic, then we can only imagine how much bigger that problem will be with Lucius, who is planning to gain control of all the world's magic. Asta will need something extra to win the final battle. He will need something more, and the answer might be the Rinnegan, also known as the Tengensu. In this chapter, we learned that in order to gain the power of Tengensu, you need to first give up all your magic power and accept that you're gonna be magicless from now on. So what a lucky coincidence that Asta is already without magic, meaning that he wouldn't have to sacrifice anything in order to take on the power of Tengensu. And let's be real, anti-magic plus Tengensu could be an incredible combination, especially when you consider the fact that Ryuya seems to be able to predict the future with the Tengensu, at least the short-term future. Imagine Asta not only having the knowledge of everything that is currently going on around him, but also having the ability to predict his opponent's next move before his opponent even makes it. Something like that would certainly give him the edge that he so desperately needs in order to take Lucius down. That said, is it even possible for Asta to acquire the Tengensu? Like, would Ryuya have to die for Asta to take it? Or could he somehow transfer the power onto Asta, at least temporarily? There's definitely a good reason why Tabata is spending so much time on Tengensu and its backstory. So I do think that this ability will play an important role in the final battle, and Asta may well be the one to wield it. What makes this potentially even more likely is that Tengensu may end up being related to time magic and Astaroth in some way. I've gotten a lot of comments from people who believe that Ryu's ability to anticipate the future could be connected to time magic. And since Astaroth is one of the final remaining mysteries in the story, I wouldn't be surprised if some link between Tengensu and the Time Devil existed. Finally, while reading this chapter, I was of course reminded of the Rinnegan in Naruto, in case that wasn't obvious already. And Tabata is clearly getting a lot of inspiration from Naruto during this arc. I was especially reminded of that saying about the Rinnegan in Naruto. As the saying goes, in times of disorder, one who wields the Rinnegan is sent down from the heavens to become either a god of creation who will calm the world, or a god of destruction who will reduce everything to nothingness. Lucius has already been established as the god of creation in the previous chapter. With his newly acquired powers, he will attempt to become a literal god with the power to create whatever he wants to from thin air. A god of creation. And if Lucius is the god of creation, then his final opponent Asta is the god of destruction. That is what we can expect from the final battle. God of creation Lucius with an incredible amount of magic at his disposal versus God of destruction Asta with anti-magic and maybe the all-seeing eye by his side. This will definitely be a final battle to remember, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out. What do you guys think? Will Asta acquire the power of Tengensu, or will he attain some other power-up before the final battle against Lucius? Don't forget to drop me a line down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more Black Clover content on the channel, leave a quick like and comment right now. It only takes you a second, but it helps me out with that YouTube algorithm. And if you're one of the over 50% of people who watch our videos regularly but haven't subscribed, do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.